Cancel. Recording. Finish. Button. Voiceover off.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa afdalu salatu wa atimmu taslim. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما ثم ما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله جل وعلا خير هدى هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار وبعد. I'd like to thank the longtime friend and the administration of the Islamic Center of Verona here, Verona, New Jersey, for offering me the opportunity, the blessed occasion to be amongst them tonight. Barakallahu fikum, and I ask Allah to enhance the goodness that they have in their life, to remove any ills and badness in their life, to bless them for their works and their efforts, and to make them a shining example in this state. We ask Allah Ta'ala to bless the community here that has welcomed them, to make them feel and see the true message and life of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and those that he lived with during his lifetime, that which Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has made for the humanity. Inshallah Ta'ala, tonight I'm going to mention some benefits that I mentioned last night in the Masjid Ahl Sunnah in East Orange, as that's the community that I came from well over 24 years ago or more. And I'll give a small, which I don't normally do, but I'll give a small mention about who I am, so that the people in front of me will have a soft heart to receive, inshallah, my message, inshallah. I am a convert. Some they say revert. And the reason they say convert or revert, because of the two meanings that the word fitrah and the hadith of the Prophet mentioned, kulukum mawludan ala fitrah. All of you were born in this word fitrah. Some ulama, they said it means Islam. That it means that you're born, meaning to submit, to live, to act and die according to the way that Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth and everything in it, has designed you, and not that you come out knowing anything about different social groups and religions and false methodologies and false gods and so forth. Others say the word fitrah here, it means to incline towards something. As they say, yumli ila shay, to lean or incline towards something. So if you take the first meaning, that it means you're born with a pure way, that Allah has made you to obey and worship and live like one who's untainted, then you say the people have reverted. But if you say that this means to lean towards something, to incline towards something, like someone say, oh, I like that idea, he's inclining towards it. So whichever one you take, that last one, inclining, means you actually lean towards something and incline towards that thing. So that's why they say that that person is a convert, because he inclined towards what he heard and then he embraced it. But if it's that you were already that, and it's as the Prophet said in the second part of the hadith, then it's your parents who made you a Jew or Christian. And think about it. Even for the Muslim that's born in a Muslim, or as we say, country or society or whatever you say traditionally, that child doesn't grow up knowing anything on his own. He's taught by his parents, he's reared by his family, and for the most part, he's just doing actions and things that are by default habits, so as we're creatures of habits. So, that is the same concept when you say that the person either reverted, came back to what he was already originally was, or that he converted to something because he was something else. That is just a benefit for the issue of why people say convert or revert. At any rate, it has the same ending. That person is a Muslim. And that was me, born and raised by people that were Christian. And I'm from the city of St. Louis, Missouri, which St. Louis is the city, St. Louis as they call it. And Missouri is the state, which is in the Midwest, 5 hours by driving from Chicago, Illinois. How did I end up on the East Coast? To make a long story short, I was searching for the truth, and I was in the church and kind of exhausted the idea of Christianity as like, a religion that I see to be correct and that I would, embrace. So I moved to Newark. I was a non-Muslim. Actually, I moved to what's called Nutley, New Jersey. My older brother by 2 years was already living there. We're both non-Muslims. And I used to have this guy back home in St. Louis. I remember this like yesterday. His name was Greg. And, he got caught up in some drugs and did a lot of time, and he gets out of jail, and he's like in his 50s. So I would go talk with him, and he would talk about the Nation of Islam, and he would talk about black movements. So when he heard I was going to Newark, and he knew that I went to listen to the Nation of Islam, because I'm searching, I had like this book and that book. He said, when you go on the East Coast, you're going to see the real brothers. And I'm looking at him in my mind saying, what is he talking about? I thought those guys with the bow ties, they were the real brothers, but he knew that on the East Coast, Islam was really here. So I started to look, and I ended up Branford Place in 1989, talking with someone who's very dear to me to this day, Sheikh Ahmed Salam. He was the part-time imam on Branford Place. And he gave me some dawah, but I didn't accept Islam. I told him I need some time to read because I have to be sure. So after that, someone in my family died back home. It was like an elder cousin, like 64. And I went back to the janaz for him. And at my mom's house, I remember having this dream. It was no audio to the dream. You could just see people and movements, but that was it. And in the dream, I was standing up, and people were kind of, the people were kind of like in a sitting posture, like in a half circle. And I was talking, moving my finger like this, but there was no sound. So when I woke up, literally my hand was trembling and I was afraid. And for some reason, now I know it was Allah guiding me. I said, when I go back to New Jersey, I got to go to that imam and ask them, what was this dream all about? Normally, I wouldn't like go to somebody and ask them about a dream. You just have a dream, that's it, coming up. But for some reason, I had this feeling like I need to go back to that spiritual mentor and ask him, like, something is about this dream. So I went to him, and I remember he was sitting, the big lihya, the big beard, the gutra, and I told him the story. And he looked at me, and then he said, in the dream, and he explained this to me after he told me this term. He said, you were imam. He said, and Allah has commanded you to accept Islam. And I remember the tears rolled from my eyes, and I took the Shahada, and I started to study with him in America, down Bradford Place, Quran, how to read the Quran, learn the Mukharaj Huruf, and things like this, where the letters come from, and basic Tawheed, and a good character, and the etiquette, adab al-Muslim, Hamid al-Khuluq, al-Muslim, al-Akhlaq Hamida, like this, good character, and so forth. And then by 94, the Shaikh, he left, alhamdulillah, and was in Ghazali in the East, and he left Newark and went to Al-Ghazali full-time in Jersey City. So when he left, all of the students that was with him, we went to East Orange. During that time, they had an African-American man by the name of Ahmed Burhani. And so from that transition, I ended up, after making Hajj in 95 and meeting our dear brother Valal here in 94 in East Orange, I ended up going to Egypt in 97. Because the brothers, they told me, they said, you have some potential. You need to go overseas. You need to go abroad. So I'm looking at the brothers and said, go abroad? They talking about the military. I said, abroad? I said, yeah. I said, what are you talking about? The military? I said, no, you need to go abroad and study, get the language. And I'm looking at them like, wow, this is amazing. They sound crazy, but it sounds good at the same time, go learn Arabic. Yeah, So I ended up going to Egypt in 97, and then after that year of learning some Arabic and memorizing some of the Quran, after learning how to read it, pretty decently, then I ended up in the University of Sana'a and in Yemen. And then from there, I spent about 8 years in Yemen, studying in Saada and in Sana'a and Aden, where we memorized Quran and Tajweed and studied most of the sciences of Ulum al-Quran, different things connected to Quran. We studied the Ulum al-Hadith, the things relative to the science of Hadith, and the different books, the classical books like Tafsir Ibn Kathir. We would study that with the Imam there, and we finished it, and then we would just start it again. Take like 5 years or so, doing it every day. And we did Fath al-Bari and Sharh al-Bukhari by Ibn Hajar Asqalani. We did Sharh Imam Nawawi and Sharh Sahih Muslim. We did the book Mustadrak Imam Hakim with the commentary by Shaykh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i. We did Sunan Sugra by Imam al-Bayhaqi. We did a lot of books of Creed and Aqidah. We did some Warqat, Usul al-Fiqh, and Usul al-Tafsir, and all of these things. And I came home in 1999, after being gone, 97, 98, 99. And then I went back to Yemen, because I had a family here and kids during that time. Went back to Yemen 2000 and stayed until 2003. And then I traveled to Mecca, came back to America, and then by 2004 I was going back to Yemen and stayed till 2008. Then 2008 I was already battling something called macular degeneration. This when the eye in the back, the retina and stuff, becomes problematic. And people in the embassy in Yemen told me after examination, you need to go back home. We don't want to tell you because we're not specialists, but from what we can see, you got an emergency situation with your eye. So I came back and went to the doctor, and then the doctor here said, you got to go to the specialist. I was a specialist within about a week. I was at the specialist twice. A specialist sent me to another specialist. And so they said, you have holes in the back of your eye, in the retina. The retina is like a flat thing that you go and research it for yourself. Without that, you can't see. And there's other things to help you see, but the retina is definitely one of them. If it gets holes in it, it can tear. If it gets torn from one side, you'll be blind. If it lifts up detachment, they have to put it back down. So I went through that from 2008, my first laser surgery, and then by 2010, the blood vessels, and this is only the left eye. The right eye, I lost it at 16. I was a kid, got hit in the eye. So you're talking about the left eye the rest of your life until this happens. And I was wearing contact lenses. So imagine you're in Yemen, you're 3,000 feet above sea level, the oxygen is thin, you're not getting proper eye care. So alhamdulillah, but you know, as the ulama, they mentioned the statement, and it comes from the meaning of many hadiths, bala hasana. From every calamity you can find some good, but you have to find the good. And as one brother, he was telling me today, he said, man, you don't have your vision. He said, may Allah give you back your, and I stopped him. I said, no, stop. My brother, I know for a long time he was glad to see me. Maybe he didn't see me in 20 years since I went to study and came back. I said, ask Allah to make me pleased with his decree. Don't ask Allah to give me no vision back. But this is a way that I'll get to the Jannah. You know, I said, you know, you guys, you see, you know, every day what's haram, that's killing your iman, killing your heart. If I needed the vision to get to the paradise, do you think Allah would have taken it from me? He said, no. I said, alhamdulillah. You know, so this, you know, alhamdulillah, after having 8 surgeries in all because of retinal detachment, 3 laser and 4 procedures, the vision was decreasing, but I was kind of like in denial. Even I remember Bilal told me in the car, he said, man, 10 years ago when you came back, your vision was changed, and I remember. And I just looked towards him and said, wow, you remember that? You know, and even 4 years prior, you know, before it went totally, my wife said, you know, you can't read like you used to, you can't do the stuff you used to, you know, you gotta be careful when you go down the steps, you almost fell. So eventually, the retinal detachment led to glaucoma, and the glaucoma is what took the vision. So, you know, although I look at you when I talk, I look around and interact, I'm actually blind. It's totally dark in the masjid now. But alhamdulillah, الذي يعني ماذا هدانا إلى الإسلام ورزقنا يعني طيبات. We thank Allah who has guided us to Islam. He's given us many things. One thing He's given me, I still have hearing. I still have my senses. I still have the ability to think about what I used to see. I think about the trees when you ride and you look out the car, you see trees. I don't see that no more. When you ride and you look, you say, oh, wow, mashallah, look at the cows. I don't see that no more. But guess what? I remember. It makes me smile. Imagine somebody had no vision, he could never tell you what that looks like. So this is a reason for me to have shukr, because I remember. And when I think about those times where I seen the creation of Allah, and only to see His creation to say subhanallah, I missed the vision. If it was that when I look at the cows, I could see them, and then I turn back, I'm blind. If it was when I look at the Quran, I can see it, and when I look back up, I'm blind, I would be happy. That's the only thing I miss. Seeing something and reflecting on Allah wa ta'ala. But it's a beautiful trade-off. And that's the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned many hadith. He called these Habibatani. He could have called them anything. You call your wife Habibati. You call your kids Habibi. You call someone you love if you're from Egypt, yeah, Habibi. In some societies you can't do that. But the Prophet called your eyes the 2 beloved ones. Because guess what? When you look at something, your heart is either affected in a good or bad way. The eyes are an amazing thing. And that which Allah wa ta'ala did, the Prophet said, whoever's patient with the loss of his 2 loved ones, talking about the eyes, he said Allah will give you the paradise. Allah promised you that. So this is just a brief mention of who I am, and alhamdulillah, as our dear brother Bilal asked me about, am I imam? I was imam when I came back from overseas in a couple of places, but now I'm just khatib and give some khutbah in different masajid, and I live in North Carolina, but I was actually doing a seminar upstate New York in Syracuse, New York, Liberty, New York, Peekskill, and then I came to Jersey because it's only an hour and 20 away to visit and see some people. As again, this is the home of mine from accepting Islam and living here, those years before I went to study. So this is why I'm here. And inshallah ta'ala, tonight we'll talk a little bit about what I was talking about last night, the issue of shubuhat, misconceptions, and shahawat, the desires. And this was a talk I did last night in Masjid al-Sunnah. I will mention some benefits from that tonight, inshallah. Ask Allah to guide my tongue to make it easy and to bless the one who listens to benefit from it. Ameen. Okay, just watch the iPad. You got to tell me, okay? If you will talk, okay, please. Also, before I start the talk, I am a student in what's called the Jamatul Miskah in Junub America, of North America, Miskah of North America. It's kind of like a modern day Azhar program, which is a good college. They had a campus in Minnesota, Florida, but they discontinued Minnesota. Now they have Florida and Texas. They actually have a live campus that I haven't visited, but I'm actually a student in the bachelor's program. And one of the benefits, as the program is in all Arabic, the benefit from those years studying, I listen to the audio or watch the video. And of course I can't see it, but to know it's on the screen, it makes me look, pay attention. And 70% of the information is on the audio. The other 30 is in the ebooks that I can't, obviously read. But when it's time to take the test, I have some people that are back home of Carolina that are Muslims and they know Arabic. We enter the testing site. You have 60 questions, 60 minutes. 60 questions, 60 minutes. He reads the question in Arabic that's there, and he reads the choices. Some of them are true or false, some of them you have to pick, and then I tell him which one. And at the end of the test, he hits submit, and then it goes to the main office in Cairo, and I get my grade. So, alhamdulillah, I was doing this course accelerated, but I took a break because of some financial difficulties. But I'm in that program and make dua that I can finish it and go on to my master's. And they gave me a scholarship because I did so good. I get half off the tuition when I start back. So alhamdulillah. So I want to mention that as well. Barakallahu feekum. Tonight, inshallah, ta'ala, we'll talk about arkan al-kufr, pillars of disbelief, because this is something that's connected to the two things that we mentioned, shubuhat or shahawat. Shubuhat, misconceptions, either that you think you're wrong but you're right, or that you think you're right but you're wrong. It's either or. If you're misled about an issue, someone tells you this is right, but you're convinced, no, this is not right, this is wrong. And in reality, they're not missing the mark. You are. This is called shubuhat. And if you have the opposite, somebody tells you this is wrong, and you said, no, this is not wrong, this is right. So you stick with that thing, thinking that you're right, although you're wrong, then this is shubuhat. And this is one of the things that is connected to tribulation. This is one of the things that's connected to fawda wal fitna, And the other thing, shahawat, following the desires, following what we like, what feels good. Never mind whether or not it's okay, if it's not, it's true or false. The thing is, it feels good. I have to do it, it suits, what I like at this time, that's it. So those two things I talked about last night, and we'll mention them again. As Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah He said in a line of poetry, لو زوال جبال على عبد بتمامها أيسر لعبد من زوال هذه أربع إذا ابتلي. He said, if these four things, which are the foundations of kufr, and the word kufr has many meanings linguistically, but here when we mention them, most of the time the ulama, they mention them in two lights, and we mean the ulama of the past, starting with the companions and the tabi'een, tabi'een. These are our heroes, these are our Islamic idols that we idolize, and we don't mean in a way like you bow to an idol making shirk, but we mean you look to them, you respect them, you understand that they are the ones that are the examples for you because they were with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's what Sallam mentioned them in the light that he did when he alayhi salatu wasalam, mentioned in many cases about his companions when Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala mentioned about them. So this many times when they talk about the word kufr, they mention it as it relates to a general term for what's wrong, a general term for sin, and then you have the term that means that person is outside of Islam. So here, when you hear the word, it's inclusive. It can mean either or. But when Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah mentioned here, he means that which is inclusive of minor and major. Minor, you have done something wrong. This is kufr. Major, you have done something wrong, but it jeopardizes your cloak of Islam. So he said, it will be better and easier on a human being. Abdun here means human being. Doesn't mean Abdun, he's a Muslim. Here, Abd sometimes just means human, like Nas. So it would be better for a person that a mountain would fall on him, that a mountain would descend upon him, that a mountain would crumble and fall on this person, than to have these four things fall upon him when he's tested with them. And these four things from the foundations of disbelief, min urkan al-kufri arba'. Al-kibr, the first one, kibr, we'll come back and explain. Wal-hasad, we'll come back and explain. Wal-ghadab, we'll come back and explain. Wal-shahwat, shahwa, Allahumma musta'an. Nasallahu salam wa afiyah. May Allah protect us. Ameen. This is a serious issue. Not just for the Muslim, but for any human being. Al-kibru, the first thing, loosely translated as arrogancy, loosely translated as being haughty, loosely translated as being conceited, loosely translated as being overly proud. And we say overly because in English there's a pride that's praiseworthy and blameworthy. When you have self-esteem, have self-worth, that's in English pride, but that's self-esteem, dignity, like this, and that's praiseworthy. بل هو واجب على الناس أن يكون هكذا. Rather, it's something that is a must. Allah said, about this issue, لا تحزن إن الله يعني معنا, about the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr in the cave. Said, don't despair. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala said, Wallahu yani ma'a as-sadiqin, inna Allah ma'a al-muttaqin, inna Allah ma'a muhsinin. Showing you don't give up hope. If you're striving to be truthful, you're striving to do the highest levels of religion, Allah is going to aid you. Don't give up. فَإِنَّ مَعَ عُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Naam. After hardship, Allah has always given you ease. So you have to have a sense of self-worth. You have to have confidence. You have to have azmatu yani azima, a strong constitution. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من سنته كان يقول اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن. نعم, used to seek refuge from worrying, having anxiety, and being sad. Although these are human qualities, we're talking about a person having these things that will keep him or her back. You're so depressed or sad that you don't eat, you don't wash, you stay away from the people and interaction. In some cases, the person who's a Muslim won't pray. He's that depressed. Allah musta'an. You're that worried. You're paranoid. You're doing things that or irregular. You're jumping to conclusions. It's haram. So here, when we say arrogancy, there's a blameworthy and a praiseworthy. We mean the blameworthy. As Rasulullah, he said, Inna Allaha jameel wa yuhibbu jamal. That Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala huwa al-jameel bi alaf lam yufidu istiqraq min kulli awja min al-wuju' wallahu jameel wa yuhibbu jamal. Now, this means that Allah, in every way you can think of Him, you're going to find beauty. In every way that you can think about Allah, you're going to find beauty. That's if you have a fitratu salima, you have a pure way that Allah has created you, and that's not tainted. Rasulullah said that Allah Azza wa Jal is the most beautifulness and the most splendid, and He loves beautifulness and splendidness. وَالْكِبْرُ بَطْرُ الْحَاقَ وَغَمْتَ النَّاسِ. He said, and being a person who rejects truth, and this we need to clarify. Sometimes the people reject truth, as we said, they have a shubuhat. Yani they think that what you're saying is not right. They may be influenced by somebody else. They may have something that they learned that's in opposition or contradictory to what you're telling them. They may not understand the perspective that's being told to them totally. There's a lot of reasons that a person cannot accept the truth. So every time someone doesn't accept what I say or you say that we deem to be, truthful, or even if it's something nobody should be able to rebuttal, an ayat of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, or a clear hadith, or even something that's just factual, like, we breathe air. Somebody said we don't breathe air. Can't say he rejected the truth. Maybe he might be, sick mentally or whatever. The point here, when we say rejecting the truth, we mean knowingly, number one, willingly, number two, freely, not being compelled, and aware of that truth. This, the Prophet said, Gham to Nas, also, when you feel, when you believe, when you think that somebody else's shortcoming, somebody else's bad action or statement or calamity, they deserve it, or that they have that because who they are, and you don't have it because who you are, and that your calamities, although they may be much more greater or less significant just because who you are, and their difficulty is much more magnified because of who they are. And we find this when, like the brother said today, you need to do a talk on this, and he gave the topic spiritual, what he say, spiritual fools. Spiritual fool. And that basically means somebody that's fanatic. They watch and see everything and criticize everything that somebody else is doing, but Allah said, nasu, they forgot their own sins, their own shortcomings. Allah musta'an. So here, Gham to Nas, you think that the people's sin is so great, while you think yours is so small. So this is kibr. وذكر العلماء أن أول ذنب
لله تبارك وتعالى على الوجه الأرض الكبر والحسد في شأن إبليس وآدم عليه السلام. It said the first crime, the first sin that was committed on earth, that was committed, pardon me, that's a mistake. Let me go back and fix that. Alhamdulillah, astaghfirullah. The first sin, أول معصية لله تبارك وتعالى الكبر والحسد. I added earth, that's not true. It's the first sin. Because we know that didn't happen on earth, it happened in the Jannah. But that was a slip of a tongue. And that shows you again, anybody can make a mistake. But as the Shaikh Mukbil, he mentioned, and used to say, this is what Imam Shafi'i said, you quote from Imam Shafi'i, it said, يعني الأخطاء لا ينقص عالم شيئا إذا يرجع إلى الحق. Said if the alim, and now we're talking about someone like me versus an alim. Person has so much knowledge, somebody might think he shouldn't make a mistake. He's an alim. No. The Shaykh said an alim, a big scholar, his mistake, his incorrectness, and his statements and so forth does not decrease him in anything, so as long as when it's brought to his attention and he understands he was wrong, he returns to the truth, he makes tawbah. So this again a lesson when we talk about shubuhat, because some people think based on your knowledge you're almost infallible, based on the knowledge that you have that you can do no wrong. So the point, going back, يعني أولا ماذا ذنب لله معصية يعني لله تبارك وتعالى هو ماذا يعني الكبر والحسد. The first disobedience, the first sin that was done to Allah from His creation, kibr, arrogancy, rejecting the truth, not accepting the command, and thinking somebody is lesser than them just because who they are, and hasad, not liking what Allah gave somebody to the point you wish that it be snatched away from them. As the ulama, they said, al-hasad huwa zawal al-ni'mah. Naam, zawal al-ni'mah. That means zawal, taken away. Ni'mah, something that Allah has given you much good and much blessing in, they want it to be snatched away from you. These are the first two sins, first two actions of disobedience done to Allah, towards Allah from His servant, and that was when Iblis was commanded to make the sajda. And understand that sajda was a way they used to greet one another. And you read in the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, you read different places, you hear the issue of bowing, and some places now they still do it. Asian continents, they do like this, but it's not permissible to do that except to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala now. But prehistorically, we go back, and times of old, this was not prohibited. So this Allah told Iblis to do as a way of respecting, acknowledging what He created in Adam, because Iblis had a great status. But the fact that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created something and gave them status that other species thought did not deserve that status, did not deserve that type of respect from Him. Aba wastakbara wa kana min al-kafirin. Aba, he refused. This is Batar al-Haq. The same thing, to refuse. Aba. The Prophet said in the hadith in Sahih Bukhari, min Tariq Abi Hurairah, from the hadith of Hurairah, it said, كل أمتي يدخلون الجنة إلا من أبى. كل أمتي يدخلون الجنة إلا من أبى. Said all of the people from my ummah, the Muslims, will enter the paradise except the one who refuses to go. So imagine, put yourself in the frame of mind, we're in the time of the Prophet. Prophet is saying this to us, and he says, except the one who refuses. We wouldn't understand that, because as Jibril said in the other hadith, which is the proof that Jannah, the paradise, the gardens, and the places will be eternally, and the Jahannam, may Allah save us from the Jahannam and give us Jannah, Ameen. They're existing now. And some of the groups of the past, like the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila, they don't believe that there's a Jannah and Jahannam now. They said, no, when Allah needs it, He'll create it. La. They're existing right now. This hadith of Jibril, the other hadith, is authentically reported in the Bukhari and Muslim. When Allah created it, He sent Jibril. He said, I'm afraid everybody's going to be in that place. Why? Because it was so beautiful. Because it was so beautiful. Then once Allah Azza wa Jalla created around it, decorated around it, the issues of struggles and hardship and patience, and Jibril went back, he said, I'm afraid nobody's going to be in that place, because he understood from Allah the nature of the human being. Then the same thing, when He created the fire, He sent Jibril. Jibril went to look, came back and said, oh my Lord, I'm afraid nobody's going to be in there. Who would want to go in there? Then Allah decorated it, surrounded it, meaning made attached to it shahawat, desires, with the noob, sin, and other than that, from evil things. Told Jibril, go back and look, and come back and tell me about my creation. What do you think? Jibril went, came back, and said, my Lord, I'm afraid everybody, all the humans, are going to be in there. Allahumma stop. This, the Prophet said, all of my will be in the paradise except those who refuse. Except those who refuse. So they said, oh Messenger of Allah, my man Yatba, who in the world, who will be out of their mind to do that? They're not going to want to go in the paradise? Prophet said, man ata'ani dakhala jannah. Whoever obeys me, he's going to the paradise. Of course, they could understand and relate to that. وَمَنْ أَصَانِي, and whoever disobeys me, فَقَدْ أَبَى, then he is the one that has refused his own self the Jannah. Tabarak wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ وَلَا تُبْطِلُوا أَعْمَالَكُم. O you who believe, obey Allah and His Messenger, and don't cancel out your deeds. So this Iblis, he did. Allah said, I was stuck about it. In this case, because he felt that Adam wasn't worth that type of respect, now here's the kippah. This is the part where we said, well, gum to nas. Man, I'm not bowing down to that. Him? Oh, shh. You need to be bowing down to me. Allah Musta'an. Ulama, they said, because he said he's made out of clay, dirt, out of fire. But they say, but the fire, the only thing it can do is cause halak, destruction. While you grow food from the dirt, you get minerals from the dirt, people build houses from the dirt, human beings are made from the dirt, so many benefits from the dirt. And this shows you that sometimes we think we know a thing while we know not. So the point here, Tabarak wa ta'ala said about Iblis, Abba, he refused. What's stuck about? He was arrogant. He put Adam down and raised himself up. And he even raised himself up above Allah when he challenged Allah by not obeying Allah. Abba was stuck about with kana min al-kafirin. And this is a type of kufr, which is mada, could be kufr juhud, the kufr where you reject what Allah told you as the evidence. It could be kufr takdeeb, you deny what Allah told you. These are different types of kufr, which are major kufr. You leave Islam in this case. But we should say that there's not the role of any alim, any scholar, let alone a layman, to take these things and say, okay, you left Islam, he left Islam, you did kibr, you have this Islam. These are like in America, a guy doesn't stand on the corner and do this. He has to go to the courts. This is a civil matter. And even those people have to examine that this guy understand what he was doing, this and that. Same thing with Islamic injunctions. So we take it easy with these matters, The point is, kibr is the first thing, rejecting the truth, belittling, looking down on the people. And the Prophet mentioned many other hadith about signs of one who has kibr, and these things have to be in the proper context. And this is the first of the pillars of kufr. The second, we said al-hasad. Al-hasad. Allah said, min sharri hasadin idha hasad. Min sharri hasadin idha hasad. And the evil of the evil envier when he does the envy. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, La hasadu illa fitnataini. La hasadu illa fitnataini. So here, normally when you find something starting with a negation, that means there is an exception to the rule. So here Allah said, La ilaha, you started with La, there's no God, and then the exception to the rule, illallah, except Allah. Here, La hasadu, there's no hasad, illa fitnatain, except in two cases. Rasulullah, he mentioned the one who has knowledge, the one Allah blessed him to gain some religious ilm. But today, knowledge is just a mere thing of articulation. But Abdullah ibn Abbas said that al-ilmu khashya, knowledge is something that it produces righteousness, it produces good character, it produces borders and restrictions from doing whatever you want to do. Not just, I know this, well, I can quote this, or I can get on the minbar and give a speech. No, that's not just the extent of knowledge. Knowledge is knowing when you can say something, when you shouldn't, when you should hold back, the perspective that it should be in, the perspective that it shouldn't be in. All of this is knowledge. The Prophet therefore praised the one and said, there's no hasad, no wanting what someone has, except in two cases. The man who has the knowledge and he practices it. وَيَقْضِي بِهِ. يَقْضِي بِهِ, he's using the knowledge. He doesn't just have it and he's not using it, he's using it. Then he mentioned the one who has, Allah blessed to him or her with wealth. And he does the right thing with his wealth. This is the key thing. They do the right thing with what Allah gave them. Knowledge, do the right thing with. Wealth, do the right thing. So why did the Prophet ﷺ say in the beginning, La hasadu? Because Allah said the hasad is something bad. Min sharri hasadin idha hasad. But here, the ulama, they said this word in the hadith, La hasadu, they said this is in Arabic, ghimta, ghimta, ghimta. And the difference between hasad and ghimta is only in good. Ghimta is only in good. So it's similar to hasad, and where hasad is general. You can want what somebody has in a good way or a bad way. But ghimta, the one-sided meaning of hasad, envy, will only allow you to want that thing from that person in a good way. So if you just say hasad, it could mean either good or bad. But if you say ghimta, which means hasad, it means only to want something from somebody for a good reason, without wanting them to lose it. Where there's envy in general, without it being for a good reason, always entails you want that person to lose it. Allahu Akbar. So this is why the Prophet said this, and this was an encouragement. لأجل يعني رقبة لهذين يعني الشريفين يعني أعمال في الإسلام, because of these two great lofty things in Islam, to make you desire them, even if it's a little bit of knowledge. You should want that thing and to practice that thing. Even if it's a little bit of wealth, you should want it to do the right thing. Then we said, the Shaikh said the third thing from the pillars of kufr after kibr, rejecting the truth. While you have no excuse, because again we said a person could be misled, a person could not understand, a person may not know, and a person may be misunderstood. But if those things are not part of the equation, then this is definitely really bad. And looking down on the people. There's a story that they mentioned about a man who was very bad as a neighbor, and the story of Imam Abi Hanifa. This man was so bad that when he would go, Imam Abi Hanifa would be stern to him. advising him in private. He would go back, tell his wife, and it became to the point where Abu Hanifa basically washed his hands from this guy. Like, that's it, I'm finished with this guy. This guy is horrible, he doesn't listen, like this kind of attitude. The man, he died. The wife went to Imam Abu Hanifa because it's very, very preferred a righteous person to pray over you because of the merit of his dua and so forth. Said, my husband has died, can you, do the janazah, pray over him? No, the guy was horrible. He used to do this, used to do that, used to do this. So then the wife, she went away, sadly, and Imam Abu Hanifa went to sleep. That man was eventually washed and prayed over. They buried him. The next day, Abu Hanifa, he had a dream that night. He woke up and he went to that lady. He said, what was the actions of your husband before he died? Of course, she didn't want to tell him. I came to you, my husband died, I'm in a state of grieving. You wouldn't watch him, pray over him because of his, actions he had in this life? She was, upset. She didn't want to tell him, He said, no, please, I want to know what was his actions before he died. So she realized that this must be significant to something. Let me tell him. She said, my husband used to always feed the poor people. Every day, he would always give charity to them. She said the last two things he did before he died, he gave charity and he fed those people. Every day he used to do this. Remember Hanifa, he said, subhanAllah, that he had a dream. He seen that man in the dream. Now remember, the man, he died. You come to me and say, Shaikh Ukkasha, so-and-so died, can we do the janazah? I say, I'm not washing them, neither am I praying over. Kana dalim. He was a bad man. Kana rajulun fasiq. He was somebody who rejected all goodness. He just used to do his thing. No, get somebody else. Then I have a dream and see the man in the dream. That happened. Abu Hanifa said he seen the man in the dream, and the man said, Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah that he didn't put the paradise in your hands. Because if it was, I would not be in the Jannah. What's the point? Ghamta nas, looking down on the people. Also, as we went to Hasid, the Prophet ﷺ encouraged the people to have a desire for two things: knowledge, practice. Wealth, if you get it, to do right by it. Because if you have a knowledge, you don't do right by it. If you have a wealth, you don't do right by it. It will be against you on the Day of Judgment. Then the third pillar, after we said kibr, arrogancy, rejecting the truth, looking down on people, hasad, wanting someone that Allah has given that person to be stripped from all the good, all of the gifts that Allah has given them out of His knowledge and wisdom. You want it to be stripped. You want it to be taken away. And the scholar said the worst type of hasad, you want them to lose it and you don't even want it. You can understand you want it. So you say, man, I wish I had that. Why he got to have that? Then you can understand you don't want him to have it. And if you have it, okay, maybe he has it too, no problem, but I want it. He got it, I should have it. I have more people I know than him. How did he get that job? How did he get that car? I make more money. If you have it, you're happy. Even if he has it and you happy because you have it, that's good. That's one type. You want to have it because you see it. Then you have the second type. You want to have it and you want to be taken away from him. The third type that said you want to be taken away from him and you don't even want it, which is the worst. Because the other two are tied behind wanting something that you see that Allah gave somebody else. Then, ghadab. Man came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, awsini, give me some advice." And the word awsini comes from wasa. Either means command, yani maw'idha, admonishment, amr, yani command, carries similar meanings. Said, advise me, tell me something good, in other words. I'm struggling. Help me out. Tell me something, drop something on me that I could, feel better, something I could get myself in line. I'm doing bad, my character and my actions, and I'm all over the place. I was saying, Prophet said, La talk Baba. Many times the brothers translate this in the books and the talks as don't become angry, don't become upset. La. Talk Baba wasn't tough al. So on the verb skill, it wasn't of doing the action. So this tie is here for a reason. It's pattern like this, meaning don't do an action while you're in a state of anger. Because anger is just like what? Happiness and sadness. Anger is like calmness. These are things that Allah made in you. You could be calm, you become upset. You could be happy, you could become sad. So the Prophet said, La taqba walaka jannah. Don't act on your anger, you will get Jannah. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentioned this when he said, وَالْكَاثِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And the one, somebody makes you upset, naturally you want to grab him. Somebody makes you upset, naturally you want to say something back. You got to catch yourself, evaluate. If I put my hands on this guy, he didn't touch me, but he made me mad enough to touch him, what am I going to expect from him? If I say something that I shouldn't say, insult this person, say some fush, something foul, something something wicked to this person. He didn't say that to me, but he made me feel some kind of way because he let the door go. He seen me coming. He could have held it. What's going to be a consequence for me? And to think, say, La taqba, meaning don't act on the anger. And you can't control the anger if you don't think. Many times the people act on anger because of what? They don't think. They just react. Allah said, وَالْكَاثِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ. That means you control your anger. While you really have the right to want to be angry. It's understood why you will lash out, but you control that anger. وَعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And you don't hold the people in contempt. Wallahi, people make mistakes, man. People do things. Sometimes people just, as we say, they out of pocket. They just wrong. But the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ لَمْ يَرْحَمْ لَا يُرْحَمْ. Whoever doesn't show mercy and compassion, understand, if you ride every horse, you'll be sore like that in the seat. If you ride every horse, you will be aching in the corset. In other words, you got to get off the horse sometime to give your buttocks a break. If you just ride it, you're going to be sore, maybe breakdowns in the skin. Likewise, you can't always ride a person because they do something. Sometimes you got to let people be pardoned. Why? Allah yuhibbu muhsinin. This is a high level of deen to achieve. And if you find yourself controlling anger, pardoning people, Allah is going to show mercy to you. Allah is going to show pardon to you. If you find yourself controlling your anger, wallahi, you will be a happier and a better productive member of society. You will be a better husband. You will be a better parent. You will be a better co-worker. You'll be a better member on the board. You will be a better worshiper. You will be a better person in the neighborhood. You will be better all the way around. That's why the Prophet told the man, control your anger, you will go to Jannah. Control your anger, you will go to Jannah. And the last from the 4 pillars of kufr, as we wind down, shahwat, the desires. This is a big one. There's nobody on the face of the earth except he has this in him. So much so that some ulama said, the Prophet said, وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ صَنَمًا وَصَنَمًا هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ شَهْوَاتٍ اللَّهُ مُسْتَعَانٍ أو كما قال. Every nation has some idol. Remember the statement sanam don't just mean a statue. It has and carries a meaning of giving servitude to something. Giving servitude meaning having something control you totally. Like they said, mutman al-khamr, the one who's addicted to khamr, meaning he can't put it down. He don't want to drink, the bottle say, get a sip, he get a sip. He ain't got no money, the bottle say, go sell some or steal something. He's addicted. Can't stop. can't control it. Has no borders. Shahwa is like that, the desire. That's why Allah said, وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. Yawm al-Qiyamah is real, but you got to fear that day. وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. And he prevents his own self from following his desires. What's the end result? فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ مَأْوَى. He's going to end up in the paradise. So the desires, you need like a whole lecture series, maybe 6 months on this issue, and still we didn't finish. People wrote, alf kutub, majalat fi hadhi mas'ala. They wrote so many volumes on this issue. But the desires is real, and that's why you have to make sure that you keep those desires in the halal. As the companions, they asked about rewards for doing deeds and so forth. They want to be in line with what Allah revealed. Someone said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, will we be rewarded if we go to," and this is a type of shahawat, will you desire to have relations? So will we be rewarded if we go and have relations with our wife? Prophet said, if you go and take your shahawat somewhere and put it in what's haram, you go have relations with somebody that you have no right to, will you be sinning and will you be punished by Allah if He doesn't forgive you? They said, certainly. He said, then likewise. That's the case with putting your desires in the halal. You will be rewarded. Kullu ma'rufin sadaqat. Naam, every good deed is a charity for you. Naam. So the issue of desires is the last thing that the Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, when he mentioned that if the mountain was to fall on a human being, and this is showing you that if the mountain was to fall on somebody, of course, if he doesn't live with a lot of injuries, in most cases he's going to be dead. But if these things catch you, your heart will be dead. Your religion will be dead. Your spirituality will be dead. And lastly, Abdullah bin Mas'ud said that kaba'ir arba'. There's 4 things that are very weighty in the issue of major sins. He said that kibro, we just covered that. It is rejecting the truth. While you know the truth, while you don't have a misconception, you reject it willingly and knowingly. If someone rejects it with those things not there, he might have an udhr with Allah. He might have an excuse yawm al-qiyamah. We have to give him an excuse then too. Unless we know that he knows for sure, unless we know that that person is doing it without force, unless we know that he doesn't have a misconception, unless we know that that person doesn't understand, we have to give him an excuse too. Unless we know that he understands, and we have no way of knowing that. It's the issue of his heart, what he comprehends and so forth. Looking down on the people. Don't be so judgmental. We don't let everything go. This is a deen of amru bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. But that starts first with yourself. Look in the mirror. And don't be so hard on others when you see shortcomings. So kaba'ir, the first thing Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said, al-kaba'ir arba', al-kibr. The first thing of the major sins is kibr. They tell you watch out for. The second thing he said, yay'as min ruhillah. Yay'as min ruhillah. You have no spirit of Allah is going to bless us, let's keep working. Allah is going to help us, let's not give up. This is the meaning of yay'as. You despair. Ruhillah, not ruh. Ruhillah, this means the spirit of being positive, having enthusiasm that, this is going to work. Allah promised us. We just got to keep being optimistic and working, doing the work. We're going to be victorious. We're going to be in a good positive result. So despairing from a good outcome, Despairing from having hope and working, this is the second from the major sins that he mentioned after Kippur. Then he said, يعني القنوط من رحمة الله, that you give up, that Allah will forgive you. You think that you did something and there's no repentance, Allah will never forgive you. No, He wants you to repent. لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا. Whatever you do, the door is always open to repent sincerely. If you do it 1,000,000 times, repent on the 1,000,001 time. It might be that you die after that, and you die as someone who was sincere and told. And then the last thing, yani, that he mentioned from the major sins is yani mada al-shahwa, naam, the desires, following the desires. La ashirk billah, asab ashirk billah, which many people that mention following the desires is a type of shirk. As Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala said, Afarayta man ittakhadha hawahu ilahan. Have you not seen the one who has taken his desires as an ilah? What does this mean? Everything that he's commanded by his desires, he obeys. And the only one should be obeyed like that, absolutely, as Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And then from the human side, the messenger, as Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala said, وَمَا أَرْسَلَ رَسُولًا إِلَّا لِيُطَاعَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. And the messenger has not been sent by the wisdom and mercy and the will of Allah, except that we obey him. وَمَن يُطِعِ الرَّسُولَ فَقَدْ أَطَاعَ اللَّهَ. Whoever obeys the messenger is equal. It's just like obeying Allah. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ. I command you to obey Allah, and I command you to obey the messenger, or you who believe. That's Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And يُعْصِمْنَا جَمِيعًا من أركان الكفر وشعوبها. Ask Allah to save us and vanguard us from the pillars of disbelief and all of its manifestations. ونسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يحيي قلوبنا بما يحب الله ويرضى. We ask Allah to make our hearts filled and lively with that which Allah He loves and that which He is pleased with. ونسأل الله تبارك وتعالى جنة الفردوس الأعلى ونعوذ به من النار. We ask Allah to give us the Jannah al-Firdaus, and we seek refuge in Him from the fire. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Any questions before the adhan and the iqamah? Firstly, around the topic, if possible, and then if it's outside the topic, no problem. وياكم جزاكم الله خير.
جزاكم الله خيرا.
الله يحفظك فيكم. الله يبارك فيكم. Ameen, ameen. Can somebody come and push this finish button so I don't have to see the finish button?
Yes, I got it.